I've heard the spiritual concepts. Like in the book, it talks about reading Eckhart Tolle and that book
Yeah,
being a really powerful book for you, and Ram
sure.
Dass and that also being a powerful book. And I don't really have a clear vision of when, like, when did all of the spirituality get integrated with your addiction?
So it was probably not that much after I was about 24 when I went into my first detox and then rehab. And shortly thereafter, I enrolled myself in school for addiction counseling. And
Okay.
I met an amazing woman who is a professor and also my advisor. Um, and I really just I felt like a heart connection with her, a very
Mm-hmm.
sincere connection. And um, so I was going through like a breakup with a girlfriend, and she saw I was kind of bummed out, and so she loaned me The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This was,
Yeah.
like I said, back in 2004, 2005, and I wasn't much of a reader then, which is hilarious because my room is just littered with books. Times have
Yeah.
changed
Yeah.
significantly. Uh, but so I went home and I read it just because I trusted her. And by the time I was done with the introduction, like I knew it was one of those literal like beginning awakenings, where
Yeah.
I knew my life would never be the same. And I don't mean to over romanticize it, but it was a really powerful experience just in those first few pages. And then I ended up reading that book from cover to cover 3 times sequentially and just
What were the concepts that were the most
sure.
powerful for you?
Well, and this is very early in my stage, so this will sound very basic to anyone who's been on the spiritual path, but the,
Yeah.
the simple thing, the first thing that really just pulled the rug out from under me was reading that I am not my thoughts. Because up
Mm.
to that point in my life, I was on autopilot. I was a zombie to my thoughts. I was completely attached and identified by them. And
Mm-hmm.
so just to read that, it was like instantaneously a little bit of space started to open up in me.
Mm.
Again, not to over romanticize, but it was a really cool thing. And it's, over the years become just substantially, greater. So to the
Right.
point where today now, when I feel like anger or sadness arising, I'm not identified with it anymore. Like
Right.
I know that there is anger inside of me, and I'm aware of it, and I honor that. I don't suppress it, but I recognize that it's not me. It's arising in my witnessing
Right.
awareness. So I know I'm jumping from one end to the other, but
Yeah. So meditation is your drug now.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's
sure,
the
and
thing to numb the
yeah,
pain. I mean, it's actually not numbing the pain because what drugs do, I presume, is to numb the pain. You actually went
right.
in and just authentically felt the pain.
Yeah, but you're right. Meditation's the polar opposite, and I note that because in the book, a lot of people have the misperception that you meditate and it's bliss and love and light, and
Oh
sometimes
no,
that
no,
is, yeah,
that's
sometimes
not
that's the
true.
case. But
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, like I have had very not traumatic, but very difficult experiences in meditation, especially with all the things that I experienced and went through in my years of active addiction. Meditation's, the perfect time for that to come up. You're quieting your mind. A
Yeah.
lot of that stuff that was buried in there comes up. But thanks to teachers like Pema Chodron and others, Thich Nhat Hanh, you learn to sit with that and you learn to cultivate compassion for these things.
Hmm.
If we turn away and run from them, they're still going to be there. But as we actually bring attention to them and mindfulness and sit with them,
Hmm.
they start to actually naturally heal themselves. And it's a really beautiful thing. It's not easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way today.
Okay,
That's for
so
sure.
if you were to talk to you during the times when you were almost about to relapse again, what
Uh,
would you have said to yourself at that point? Now having traveled the journey, being free and clear for a while, what would you have said to yourself?
so that's tricky because I think a misconception a lot of people have is the relapse happens when they pick up the drink or the drug. The
Right.
relapse actually happens, usually it could be months ahead of time. It really starts with old behaviors. And, we start hanging out at places that we used to hang out at when we used, or with people we used to hang out with, or we stop going to meetings or doing whatever we're
Right.
doing that's our recovery thing.
Right.
What I would say though to myself now in retrospect, I just wish I was able to cultivate more compassion for myself and my experience and more patience. In the fellowships, they say one day at a time. Or Eckhart Tolle says, the power of now, Ram Dass, be here now. It's such a truth, but it was something that was so hard for me to really. On the intellectual level, it's easy to understand, but at the experiential level, for me, it was extremely difficult to experience, to really be with. So these are things I wish I had a better experiential understanding of back then. But
What would you have asked yourself to experience? Would you have stepped yourself through meditation, and what would you have done?
There's one practice I use today, and I write about this. I write about Indie Spiritualist, and I wrote actually an article on it for Elven Journal a while back, and I can't. It's like over 150,000 views now. It just blew up, and
Yeah.
I don't say that because hey, look at me. I say that because it's gotten so much wonderful feedback from the people who wrote it who've tried this.
Yeah.
It's so it's such a. I read like a different version of it, or maybe I heard it in a Thich Nhat Hanh audio talk years ago. I don't remember verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, and this is how I share it just quickly, is that when we feel this discomfort or disease, or it could either be physical or mental, it starts one or the other. But when we become aware of that, if we're able to, we'll sit, close our eyes and become more intimate with that. What's the thought? What is the thought or thoughts we're having? What is the emotions we're experiencing? Where are they located in our body? Is it tension in our head, or is our face tight, is our stomach churning, chest tightening, whatever it is, or combination thereof. And so as we sit and we become more familiar with them, what I've experienced, and a lot of the feedback I've gotten, is others do too, is some kind of image while our eyes are shut is going to arise, whether it's an abstract image, a color, a person, it could be anything. Whatever image needs to come up for us is going to come up. Or there might be no image. But what I suggest people do is you take that image or lack thereof. If there's no image, just take the energy and the pain and you hold it like a mother would hold a newborn baby, while your eyes are closed. And you can mentally say to it something to the effect of, I acknowledge you're here, and I honor that you're here, and I'm here to be with you and show you love and compassion. And I'm not going to go anywhere until you're ready for me to leave. And for some people, that's too intimate. So I say, all right, then you can also picture it in like a rocker, a nursery rocker, and you're rocking it. But I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, just bringing that loving intention to your pain,
Right.
within a minute, it's gone. I mean,
Right.
and that's the feedback, like hundreds of comments on it, similar feedback. There have been times where I've had to sit with a few heavy things for half an hour to an hour. But so I wish I knew that back then. But then again, even if I knew it, maybe I wouldn't have been putting it into practice. I don't know. I believe that we get the teachings when we're ready for them, and we cultivate them when we're ready for them. And so I'm grateful that I use it now today. And that's just one of a few techniques, but that's one I found most instrumental.
Yeah, and then so that probably helps whether people are in addiction or not. I mean, it just
No,
helps. We
anyone.
all
Oh,
need
period.
reminders for self love and
Yeah.
compassion and kindness to run away from the shame and guilt that we feel either we place on ourselves or society places, those messages, all those things. It's a beautiful meditation.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll tell you, CJ, I'm so glad you said that because my book, it's not just about addiction and recovery. That's a
I know.
huge part of
Yeah.
my story. But something I like to note in there is I was interviewing Father Thomas Keating, who is a wonderful Trappist monk. I adore him. And I interviewed him a few years ago. And in our interview, I had mentioned to him that I'm in recovery. And he kind of laughed, this beautiful 82-year-old man laugh. And he's like, well, I'm in recovery too, but I'm in recovery from the human condition. And it just like a light went off. It's like, duh, like we're all recovering from something.
And I didn't want to make light of the serious, addiction problems that people have with
Oh,
alcohol
yeah. Yeah.
and drugs. But you know what? If we really are honest with ourselves, we're all addicted to one thing or another. Addicted to
Absolutely.
email, addicted to achievement, addicted to, staying on Facebook. I mean, and not to make light of it, but I
Oh, yeah,
think
yeah.
that these are truths which help you re-examine your addictions, whatever they may be,
Yes.
because I think that it really goes into looking at about yourself, like what are those addictions serving, and what is it that's missing,
Oh,
which is they're trying to fill. And I think that that's what a lot of these beautiful passages did. And again, it's not a book about addictions, but it's about your life story, of which I'm a part.
yeah.
So
No, but yeah, it's a big part of it.
so,
But thank you.
thank you so much for being here. I have to wrap. I just got a message to wrap, so I got to go. It's been wonderful having you here. We've had Chris Grosso, who again, Indie Spiritualist, wonderful book. And folks, you can go to tell us your website again.
Yeah, it's the indiespiritualist.com. And similar to Betsy, who you had on, I'm a little fire, or she's a firecracker, and I love listening to her. But yeah, I write for a bunch of same people. You can find all the links from the indiespiritualist.com. And I loved your talk with Betsy, and I'm psyched to be with her in June. I wanted to mention that as well. So,
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you so much for being here, guys. Everyone in the listening audience, have a great weekend. Hopefully, this helped you in one way or another. Thank you so much. Bye.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to the Fire It Up with CJ show. I hope you enjoyed the show and that you learned something or found something that you'd like to try out. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show and love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.